You know, day 2 of the Halloween challenge. Hashtag Halloween. We'll wait for some people to get on. We're going to talk about, well, we're going to tell scary stories tonight. I'm down in my dungeon, candlelight. Got the scary setting going. Hopefully, we get some people on here and we can tell some scary stories tonight. Hey Robin, how's it going? Let me know if you guys can hear me okay and the broadcast isn't sketchy or freezing up or anything like that. Hey Jennifer. Oh, I'm pretty good. Thank you. Cash Tray is here. Dominic. You guys ready for some scary stories? Well, I think they're scary. We'll tell a few scary stories tonight. Visual is great. Sounds good. Hey, Cash Tray. All right. Abby Williams, how's it going? Just discovered my channel and you love it. Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Susan. All right. Black Mist Angel, thank you for the tip. Appreciate it. Hey, Hannah. Hey, Mandy. All right. So I'm just going to tell some scary stories. Tonight. Let's just do that real quick. All right. We got rid of Hannah. Okay. So, down in the dungeon right here. So I have a few scary stories that I want to tell. I told a few of them last year on You Now, and so really I have nothing new. So if you've already seen those, well, I got nothing new for you. 2:30 a.m. over there in Scotland. Susan, hope you heal well from your treatment. Okay, let's just get right into this. Let's see, what story should I tell first? By the way, do I sound weird? I got my vampire teeth. These were custom made by Horror Show Jack at Scaricon. I made a dental impression, so that's my dental impression. And then he made it custom made around my teeth, so they just fit right in there. Okay, so the sound was low. Sorry if, hope you guys can hear me okay. All right, Robin, thanks for the tip. All right, so let me see, which one should I tell first? I'll save the best for last. Okay, little things like, okay, so this is kind of creepy. It's not really scary, depending, I guess, what you think scary is. Okay, so I bought the house that I'm living in right now. I bought it back in, was it late 2010, I believe. I moved in. The people moved out. I know that the people that lived here before me were a very elderly couple, and their kids, who are like my parents' age, inherited it, and they sold it to me. When I got here, there was nothing in the house, obviously. It was completely empty. But after living here for, I don't know, a few months, I was downstairs in the basement, where I am now, but the other room over. and I was doing laundry. The furnace, the hot water heater are both there, and tucked away behind the furnace, I see something. So I get closer, and it was a picture, an old picture, an old frame of a little boy, a painted little boy that seemed like it was from the early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. And he just, okay, so upstairs, my dog is going crazy right now. Um, he looked as though wherever you went, he was watching you. And it just seemed creepy. He's not smiling or anything like that. I gave him a name. I named him Jacob. And whenever I hear things in the house, I say Jacob came out of the picture and he's doing things, usually at night. Wherever I would go, I would see Jacob. And I love to be scared, although I haven't been scared since I was much younger. But I like thinking scary thoughts, scary stories in my head. So I'm always telling myself one day I'm going to be down there late at night doing laundry, and I'm going to look over at the picture and he's not going to be there. So I want to show you that picture if I can in this lit, candlelit room. One second there. Okay. I brought it with me. It's an old picture. Here's Jacob. As you can see the reflection, your guy's reflection from what I'm looking at. But this is him. I don't know how old is it. I don't know how old it is. Anything like that. Here's Jacob. For some reason, no matter where you look, he's always looking at you. Good old Jacob. It has a little bit of water damage, as you can see. But there's little Jacob standing next to a chair. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe early 1900s, maybe late 1800s, but the back of it's falling apart as I got to put that back together. It's a bunch of wood holding it in. I did take it apart to see if there was anything on the back. There's lots of money in the back. No, just kidding. There was nothing in the back. Okay, so that's my first scary story. My second one. All right. So before I bought a house, I lived in, well, first I was living in the Washington, D.C. area. I was working as an investigator. And then I transferred to upstate New York. I started working in Rochester. So when I lived in Rochester, I had an apartment. And my girlfriend at the time lived back in Syracuse. And her parents lived in a neighborhood. And we were driving one summer back, I believe, in 2009-ish in that neighborhood. And we noticed that somebody was having a yard sale. And they were selling a sofa chair. Actually, it wasn't a yard sale. They were just selling a sofa chair. There was a sofa chair in the yard, and it said $20. So I'm like, well, it's $20. That's a pretty good deal. Let's go see if there's anything. So I stopped my car, and she went over and looked at it, and she said, yeah, it's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't smell bad. So I'm like, $20, let's take it, because I needed something for my apartment. So she walked through the garage, because the garage was open, out to the back patio, and there was a really old lady, probably in her 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that was sitting there, and she said, hey, I want to buy the chair. So she gave her the $20, and we took the chair, and I brought the chair back to my apartment. Probably about 8 months later, I ended up buying a house. And that house that I bought was the house that I bought the chair from, and I'm actually sitting in it right now. And I think that's pretty creepy that not knowing at the time that not there's no way to know that I would buy this house, but I did. And that chair that I bought from the house went right back to where I'm sitting right now. So I'm sitting in the chair that I bought back in 2009, long before I owned this house. There was something about that chair that had to come back. What are the chances of that? Not very big. Okay, let's see another scary story I can tell you guys. Um, this one, all of these stories are true. I'm not gonna, first of all, let me say this. I am probably most like the character Mulder from X-Files. I want to believe, but I need more proof. So I'm very skeptical. I wouldn't believe a lot of these stories if they didn't happen to me. I'm not like a firm believer in ghosts or anything like that. I think there's a scientific explanation for most things, but I want to believe. I want there to be a ghostly presence. I'm very interested in that, which means you could point me in the most haunted house and I would go there. So anyway, um, Scully is scientific. Mulder wants to believe. Mulder does want to believe, but there's something that he always questions. That's why he says, I want to believe. Scully just doesn't believe in any. You could tell her, like, oh, this, she could see whatever's happening, and she still is going to describe it with science, which is a lot like me, but I want to believe. Anyway, so the first time this happened to me, I was in 8th grade. By the way, I have a very good memory. I have a very good, um, I retain a photographic memory pretty well. Obviously, I don't think it's 100%, but it's pretty good, and I can go all the way back to when I was a child. So I was in 8th grade, and it was winter. Snow was on the ground, and I was home at my parents' house, and nobody was home but me. And I had to do chores, so I was vacuuming the living room. And as I was vacuuming, I'm not thinking anything scary or anything like that. I'm just vacuuming. And as I looked down the hallway, as I glanced up, I saw like a black shadow-like figure walk into one of the bedrooms. And immediately my heart started pounding. And I turned the vacuum cleaner off, and two thoughts ran through my head. Do I run out of the house right now? Or do I go down and see who just walked into that room? Because I know nobody's home. So I stood there for a few minutes, heart pounding. What do I do? Do I run outside? And if I run outside, then what do I do? It's cold and there's a lot of snow out there. I'm just going to have to come back in. So I walked down the hallway and I slowly opened the door and I saw nothing. So I walked and looked in the closet, nothing. I didn't see anything. Has anybody ever seen like those shadow people? Well, I didn't know if it was my eyes playing tricks on me or anything. But many years later, when I was in college, I was going to the University of Florida. I lived in Gainesville. I actually lived in the same apartment complex as Tom Petty's brother. So I'm in my apartment complex. I'm on the second floor. There's only one way in or out of my apartment. It's the main door. Just a 2-bedroom apartment. I had a roommate, but he wasn't home at the time. It was the middle of the daytime, and I had already came back from class, and I was in the kitchen, which, if I look over, just the kitchen is an enclosed area, and over is the living room where the front door is, and I'm doing dishes. Again, not thinking anything scary, and in the amount of time it took me to, scrubbing the dishes to look over like that, and that amount of time was all it took, because in that amount of time when I looked over, I saw another shadow figure in the corner. This time it was much more detailed. Again, I wasn't thinking anything scary to put any kind of thoughts into my head. It was a little boy crouching down with a very twisted look of evil on his face, looking up at me, like down, just looking up at me. And that was enough to make my heart stop again, beating, turn the water off. What do I do? Like, that's like the way out. I want to run outside of my apartment now. But that is exactly where the door is. So again, I just kind of froze where I was doing dishes. Um, so yeah, I've seen those kind of things a few times. Again, okay, let me just also say this because I don't know if this matters or not, but I've never done drugs and I've never drank alcohol. I'm completely straight edge there, so I wasn't hallucinating or anything like that. Um, Another story. Now this one I can't tell you if, well, why don't I just get to the story? Okay, so it was my first year not in high school. So I had already graduated and school had started up again. And I remember thinking, I don't have to go to school. And I didn't go to college right away because I just didn't want to. So here I am, not having to go to school. I was 18. And a couple of my friends, we decided there was an old, abandoned, really big, really old house on one of the main roads in the small little town that I'm from. So we decided, let's go there and see if there's anything inside. And, oh, Robin, I'm too scary for you? Sorry about that. Well, I'll catch you next time. Um, so yeah, we parked the car in an abandoned, old, rundown, which used to be a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, but it no longer existed there. So, and this is late at night. And this is when I was 18, so this is back in 1994. This is right around the time I went vegan, too. So here we are. Remember, there's no cell phones or anything like that. We park the car, and then we kind of run kitty corner across the street. So it's down a little bit. So we ran across the street to this old house, and it was boarded up, and we went in the back. And this is pretty crazy. I can't believe we even did this, but we had to crawl through the ground, like the house was, there was like a little gap between where the house was and the ground, and it went under. So it was all these stones, and it was all wet. And we crawled underneath here, and we came up through the boarded floor. And what is this? Hold on one second here. All right. Okay. So yeah, we came up through the floor, and there was a stairway, but the stairway was completely boarded up. The only way to get there was these boards, these little boards. So I remember specifically what I did. They were very breakable. Again, and nobody had lived in this house in years. And I remember, this is kind of stupid, but just that I remember this, I was imitating the character Raiden from the video game Mortal Kombat. I think this was before the movie even came out. So I'm like, hey guys, check this out. And I was like, choo, 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 choo. And I busted the little tiny boards out. And then we climbed over and we started walking up. Now it's completely dark in this place. And I remember we had these little pen flashlights, you know, remember those little pen ones that you press the little metal thing on the end, you press it and it turns on? We had one of those. So we didn't have much of a light. And we all started walking upstairs. Now it took a little bit to get over the board, so it wasn't like we could just like walk in so easily. You know, we had to climb over and then walk up. And not ironically, but surprisingly, you know, none of us were thinking anything scary. Like, we're in this old abandoned, which looks like a very haunted looking house, but nobody was thinking anything scary. We were thinking of what kind of treasure might be in here. my canine. Should I take them out? Am I kind of talking weird? I will take them out because I keep biting my lip. Um, so where was I? Remind me. Okay, so we're walking upstairs, and I specifically remember um, the first room that we came upon. There was sprawled out box of like pictures. They were black and white pictures, and when we looked at them, the people in it, they were all posing in different fashion, but nobody was smiling in these pictures. They're all straight faced, just looking at the camera, almost like very creepy looking. I still have one of these pictures somewhere. I can't show it to you because I think it's in the attic somewhere at my parents' house where I grew up. But all these pictures, I could identify one of them was taken in the Washington, D.C. area. But the other ones I didn't know. And there was this girl, she had black hair, and she was just looking straight at the camera, just kind of very creepy. Um, as they were looking at this, now my one friend, he is he was like a mechanic, and he owns his own like motorcycle shop out in Hawaii. So now he does, but at the time he didn't. He was just like kind of like he built his own motorcycle. So he saw there was a chainsaw laying on the ground. Now I know a chainsaw, you know, your first thing is Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something scary like that. Nope. He's just like, oh, a chainsaw. I could probably like, you know, see if this works, and then maybe put it in the penny saver and sell it, you know, because there was no Craigslist back then. Um, Liliana, thank you for the tip. Appreciate it. So he takes the chainsaw. So now I'm thinking, I'm like, what the heck? He's, you know, he's going to make so much money on this. I got to find something. So I start wandering off down the hallway to the end bedroom, completely black. I don't even have a flashlight with me. What am I thinking? So I get into this room. They're over there, like, figuring out who's going to take what over there, just grabbing stuff. And I'm in a completely different room. It's on the second story, and there's many windows in here, and it's completely dark out. However, we're right on the main road, but there's not a lot of traffic. So every time a car would go by, it would kind of light up the room as the car went by. So I'm going to tell you what I saw and heard. I don't know if my mind was playing tricks on me or whatnot. This one I cannot confirm or deny. So anyway, here we go. So as I'm standing here, a car starts coming. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to find out what's in this room. And it starts illuminating the room as the light goes by, and I start seeing like all this junk everywhere as I'm standing. And like right kind of in front of me is a high chair with a doll, a porcelain doll, you know. My grandma had all these kind of dolls, so I knew it was a porcelain face doll, you know, with those eyes where you tip it down and they close and they open, staring right at me. And as it's going by, I don't know if my mind's playing tricks because I saw this doll right in front of me, but I heard, Daddy, and I lost it. I totally freaked out, and I ran down the hallway, and I'm like, oh my God. And then they didn't know what was going on, so they all just started, we're all running down the stairs, and we're trying to get out, and like I said, it was hard to get in, so we're all fighting to get over like the railing and try to get out of this house and crawl through the stones underneath the house and get out of there. And we just ran to the car. My buddy's running with this huge chainsaw in his hand, and we had like a box of like some of the pictures and stuff. We didn't really get much. He got a chainsaw, but yeah. So I like to tell it like that because I like to think that, you know, because it makes it a lot scarier like that. I don't know if my mind was just like thinking that as I saw it, but there we go. That's another scary story for you from me. Taking shrooms made me vegan because I saw the truth. Isaiah J. Okay. Faux Turkey says, I'm 34 and I have 2 paranormal experiences. Has anybody, no, I can't even remember. You know the documentary on Netflix with talking about sleep paralysis? Does anybody know that? I never would have believed any of this, but this actually happened to me, and it's the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. I wasn't sure if I was going to tell this story or not, but I guess while we're at it, we're only 25 minutes in. Um, let's see. I think I have two more stories for you. I'll save the best for last. The best one that I think for last. Susan, I have many, but I'm older than faux turkey. Okay, so this is really Adrian. I wouldn't argue with any of that because all of that seems like a possibility. It was terrifying. Okay, so the year was 1997. It was the 4th of July. Ironically, I was with the same person that took the chainsaw. So I was with him and his girlfriend. I live in Syracuse, New York. He lived in Syracuse, New York, and his girlfriend lived here as well. But her mother lived in Buffalo, New York. So on the 4th of July, I keep saying ironically, but ironically, we went all the way out to Buffalo, and our plan was to go visit her mother, well, so she could go say hi to her mother, but we wanted to go to Canada. I don't know why we wanted to go to Canada on the 4th of July, but we went over there to skateboard for the day and then come back. So anyway, we drove all the way out there. Okay, so we went out there, and her mother lived in this really old house in Buffalo. The windows were like really tall. We walked in, and this is what it was just. Okay, so her mother was just, it was very weird. She had this white curly hair about down here, and she talked very weird, almost like the mother from Carrie, like they're all gonna laugh at you, that kind of thing. I have a video of this. Actually, I uploaded it to YouTube long before I started the Vegan Zombie because I didn't think anybody would believe me. But I had a camcorder with me at the time back in '97. Obviously, YouTube didn't exist back then, but I later uploaded it. It was one of the first videos I took from my collection of videos and uploaded to YouTube. But in this house, there was all these trinkets and pentagrams and all kinds of things, little drums, everything. And my friend was playing with one of them, and his girlfriend said, I wouldn't play with that if I were with you. And he's like, why? What's going to happen? Is your mom going to put a curse on me or something? And she kind of jokingly said, I don't know, maybe. So her mother practices that stuff. I wasn't exactly sure what, but anyways, we didn't think anything of it. We went over to Canada, we skateboarded, and we came back to the house. When we came back, it was later. I remember the moon was out because that was the only light that was illuminating the room that I was in. Okay, I'm weird. I'm the kind of person, I cannot sleep on a couch. I need either a bed or I slept on a hardwood floor. I would rather sleep on a hardwood floor than a couch. And that's just because I can't get comfortable on a couch and I sleep on my stomach and it'll hurt my back if I don't. And anyway, I slept on the floor. They went up to one of the bedrooms and I slept on the floor. And I remember what I was looking at as I was falling asleep. Okay, so there were two. I was looking at a fireplace. The fireplace was a brick fireplace. The window didn't have any curtains that I can recall that were closed, so it was open. So the moonlight was coming in, and there were these like metal owls, these black owls that were like meant for the fireplace, probably to hold the wood. And above that was this pentagram with all these little trinkets hanging on it. Again, I'm not thinking anything of this. I'm just falling asleep. And all I can describe to you as I'm getting sleepy and I'm falling asleep and I can hear them talking up in the room as I'm falling asleep and everything's kind of going. Boom, I wake up and I know I'm absolutely 100% awake. I know the difference between a dream and being awake. I'm awake. My eyes are wide open, and I no longer hear them. It was like instant. I must have fallen asleep and lost track of all time. It seemed like it was like seconds. Um, and I heard nothing. But I had, you ever had that sense that something's watching you? It was so intense that I felt like something or someone, I felt like the mother was behind me, doing something behind the couch towards me. And I was this is what I had in my head, that she was behind me. And it was really scary. So I'm thinking, okay, do I play dead? Do I pretend I'm still sleeping? Obviously, I'm wide awake. There's no way I can go back to sleep right now. I just feel a very weird feeling. I want to look, but I'm also like, what do I do if I see her behind? Like, then what do I do? So I just kind of thought in my head, okay, I'm just going to count to three, and I'm just going to turn my head and kind of pretend like I'm still sleeping and try to get a glance at if there's anything over there. So I counted to three, and I went to turn around, and as soon as I tried to move, I was completely paralyzed, 100% paralyzed. I could not move, and I felt a presence. I felt like a force going through my chest. I felt this weird humming in my ears, and I felt like I was being possessed by like a very evil spirit. That's what I was thinking in my head, and I was terrified. And I can't explain of how scared I was, because it's not the scared that I've experienced other times in my life. This is the kind of being scared that it just brought, like, I was an adult and it just brought me down to like the mentality of like a little kid just wanting to jump in bed with their parents. That's how scared I was. It was terrifying. I could not move, and I was in the state for, it seemed like forever, and I started like trying to concentrate on moving, and finally, what seemed like forever, I moved my pinky, and then I sat up. I could move. I sat up, and I wanted to run up and tell them, but I'm like, they're gonna think I'm crazy. What do I do? Like, this is nuts. Um, I was so scared. I didn't think anybody would believe me. I wouldn't believe me if somebody told this to me, but this just happened to me. So after like gathering my thoughts, and I lay, how am I going to get back to sleep? So I laid down again, and as soon as I laid down, as soon as my head touched, I was instantly paralyzed again, the second time, after being moving up. And that's why I kind of question whether this is really sleep paralysis or not. But anyway, the next day I told them about it. I took video of it. I uploaded the video to YouTube, the exact area that because I wanted people to see what I saw, like what happened. After this happened to me about a handful of times after this. It has not happened in many, many, many years, but after this, it happened to me a few times, and it was very scary, but I wanted to feel it again. Like, I want that, because I love being scared. So I like wanted it to happen, but as soon as it would happen, I'm like, no, it just was too scary. I want it out. And I saw that documentary, and I feel like anybody that this didn't happen to they have to think that they're just full of crap, but they're not. This really happened. This is terrifying. And I don't know if it's sleep paralysis. I don't know what it was, but for a long time, I thought I was possessed by some kind of demonic spirit. And then after, the years went by, and I read more and I looked more into it, I was like, scientifically, this looks like sleep paralysis. Like, my body was sleeping. I was awake, but my brain was still had me in some kind of sleep psychosis. I don't know. But I question that too, because why would I sit up and instantly go back into it? I don't know. This is true. I'm not making any of this up. This really happened. See, Faux Turkey had the same experience. Buzzing energy going through your chest and your ears, your head, just like, that's what it felt like to me. Corpse Husband on YouTube. Never heard of it. That sounds interesting. Okay, so real quick, this is another instance of how it happened. When I lived in Florida, I was okay. So if I sleep on my stomach because that's the most comfortable for me, but if I end up sleeping, falling asleep on my back, for one, I have sleep apnea. I stop breathing for quite a long time, and it's dangerous. It's not good, and I feel it. I feel it, and the other thing is I sleep with my eyes open. Many people have said to me that they've had conversations with me and they think I'm just ignoring them, but my eyes open. Now, when I was living in Florida, this is right after high school, so I kind of went down there again with the same friend that had the chainsaw, and nobody was there. I fell asleep, and like this was living complete, like on a budget. Like I had a mattress in a room that I shared with him and another person. So we had basically just mattresses on the floor, and I had this little mirror that was kind of right next to my bed, and I fell asleep. My head was kind of tilted, and my eyes were open, and I could see myself sleeping, and I couldn't move. I knew that I was sleeping. I could tell that I was sleeping, but I was completely sleeping. I could not wake up. I could not move, but I'm looking at myself sleeping, and I could hear roommates out in the kitchen listening to music and making food in the kitchen. And in my head, I'm like, wake me up, push me, do something, get me up. And I just kept concentrating because I was paralyzed and I knew I was sleeping. I could see myself sleeping. And finally, I woke up. And as soon as I woke up, I realized nobody was there. There was no music. There was no people in the kitchen talking. Nobody was making food. My brain, my dream, or whatever made all that up, and it made it so real that I completely thought it was reality, more so than I ever have before. I don't have CPAP because I'm fine when I sleep on my stomach, so I never sleep on my back. My mom actually has that, so she has to sleep with the mask on. Okay, are we ready for the last one? I have a feeling I know more, but uh, just off the top of my head, I can only think of one more experience that happened to me that probably was the close. The This is like the most compelling evidence I have for any kind of ghost or spirit. If you've heard this before, this again, I'm not making any of this up. This is completely real, and it's coming from a skeptic who relies on science more than anything. Um, I was, it was my first semester at school, at the community college before I went to Florida. I was living in Syracuse. I was going to school. It was summer. I started school with a buddy, actually. We took the same classes in the summer, July. And I believe it was 1998 or 1999. And it was early morning. I was living with my parents at the time, and my school was about 45-minute drive if you're driving without traffic. And again, I lived in a small little town outside of Syracuse, New York. My first class started at 8 o'clock. I like to be punctual, all that kind of stuff. And this was my buddy. It was his day to drive. So he comes and picks me up, and he's kind of on his own time. I'm like, what are you doing? Hurry up and get here. So he pulls in the driveway, and I run out to the car. I'm the kind of person, I don't like to be late for a class. I'm that nerd that I got an award through high school for having perfect attendance from 8th grade to 12th grade, never missed a day of school. So I needed, I'm like, come on, we're going to be late. Go, go. So he starts driving. It's like 7:15 in the morning on a nice summer day. July or August. The corn was tall. I remember the corn was tall, and we live in upstate New York, so there's a lot of corn. And we drove the back roads, and I remember it was Salt Springs Road, and this is the kind of back road shortcut that we would take. And we're flying up the hills, and at the part that we're at, there's really no houses, and it was very misty, almost like a dense fog all over the corn kind of coming out into the road, and we're driving around the turns. And what we both saw, he can corroborate this. As we're going, this girl comes running out. Now, don't ask me. I was young at the time, a lot more naive and not street smart or anything just than I am now, a lot. And we're driving, and she comes running out. Now, she had to be like 13 or 14 years old, and she's waving her arms, okay? And I'm like, what? And we barely miss her. He swerves so he doesn't hit her. And I turn around and I look, and we just keep going. And I'm like, do we stop? If we stop, we're going to be late for school. Like, what is a girl doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, I regret this moment I regret this moment. I really wish we stopped and went back. We didn't. We kept going. And there was something about her that I noticed that I never said for many, many years. I noticed something about her, and I kept it to myself all those years. I know something wasn't right, and we were going really fast, so I just kind of explained it in my own mind that we're going really fast. So I was concerned, however. The next few days, again, this is before the internet, so the next few days I looked in the paper, I watched the news, I'm like, did anybody get kidnapped? Was there a girl that was missing? Anything? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So finally, it just, out of sight, out of mind, I stopped thinking about it. But I never forgot what I saw. And about 10 years later, I'm living in Arlington, Virginia, when I worked down there in D.C. And Liliana close, but no, her eyes were not black. I'm living in Washington, D.C., and we're at my apartment, and I'm with a couple of friends, and surprisingly, a couple of the friends that were down there were also friends from back home up here that I grew up with. And there was another friend that I met, down there. So we're all sitting there, and they're all talking about ghost stories, okay? And they got upon this one story, and it just all of a sudden it got me thinking to that day 10 years earlier. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the first time I'm going to tell somebody what I actually saw. I'm like, I don't know if this is a ghost story or not, but I want to tell the story. So basically, I told them everything that I just told you, all the way up to the part where we passed her. Now, what I saw, and I am not exaggerating, and the reason why I just kind of like played it off like, oh, we're just going too fast. We're going really fast. She did not have a face. Her face was completely the color of skin. There was no eyes. There was no mouth. There was nothing. And I'm like, oh, it was a blur. We're just going too fast. No, I've gone a lot faster in a car, and people have faces. You probably have to go the speed of a rocket to see somebody with no face. I am not making this up. And immediately my friend says, was it on Salt Springs Road? And I'm like, how the heck did you know that? And she goes, it was, wasn't it? I'm like, yes, it was. And she's like, my grandpa told me a story that on Salt Springs Road, a girl was killed in a car accident there when she was about 13 or 14, many years ago, like in the 30s or 40s or something like that. And people have been said that they have seen her ghost or something on that road. And some people even said that they picked her up, and when they got to the end of the road, she wasn't there anymore. And some people have got in accidents. I happen to know somebody. Well, he was a friend of my brother, so he was a little bit younger than me, but he got in an accident. He was killed on that road in an accident. Just knowing somebody that, but there other people have been as well, people I don't know. I ended up doing some research about ghosts and spirits, and I found, to my surprise, was that they say that sometimes ghosts or spirits are found in wooded areas that don't have all of the human features because they can't recall everything. So maybe they don't have a face, or maybe they don't have feet and they appear to be floating. I mean, this is if you believe in that kind of thing. I don't know what to believe. I need more proof. But this is exactly what I saw. I am not exaggerating. when I was telling that story to my friends, when I tell these things, I think I sound crazy because I don't think I would believe me. But knowing what I saw, like, how can I not? So I called up my friend that was there. I go, hey, do you remember the day that we almost hit that girl? And he's like, yeah, I do. I go, do you remember anything weird about her? He's like, I don't remember. Was it something like with her face or something? I'm like, yes. Do you remember she didn't have a face? He's like, you know, I mean, it rings a bell. Yeah, I mean, so he remembers. I don't think he remembers as good as I do, but he does remember that day almost hitting her. There's several ways that I can drive to my parents' house. And every time I go to their house, I always go that way. I always want to see it again. I want to go by that cornfield and see her again. I want to stop. And so that is my scary story. That is 100% true. It really happened. I've wanted, because I love making film. I want to someday turn that into maybe a short video, a short movie or something like that. I think it'd be great to see it the way I saw it again and actually make a movie out of it. Maybe even put it on YouTube. When I was in Salem, I believe I'm going to Salem tomorrow. I don't think anything creepy happened to me while I was in Salem. Things happen so often that, like, I just put it, like, things happen, like, coincidental things happen. Like, I'll say something, and then coincidentally it'll happen to the point where I don't even say anything anymore because it's so normal. But, hi, Ellen. How are you? It is a bit overrated, but I like it this time of year. Actually, I like it any time of year, but there is one other story I just was about to tell you. And these fangs are sharp. Keep biting my lip. Oh, yeah, okay, so let me see. Hi, Iggy. How's it going? We just finished all the scary stories. I think that I'm done with the scary stories, but I do want to tell you a really interesting, kind of creepy dream that I had. I have told this before. This is a weird dream. I can't believe my brain kind of made this up. But I've always wanted to make, like I just said with the other one, a short story with this one. So don't steal this idea from me because it's pretty unique. But think of Twilight Zone, something like that, or Outer Limits. This is perfect for Twilight Zone. You would think that you would watch this on the Twilight Zone. And maybe there's something like this, but this is what I had a dream of many years ago. I've always wanted, okay, my big fear is time. I want to live forever. If I could have a wish, I would, I don't know, go back in time 500 or 600 years and be immortal and live all the way till now and see history unfold. But I'm always fearing that I don't have enough time. And like, I would love to be immortal. And a long time ago, I'm wearing vampire teeth. I wanted to be a vampire so bad because they're immortal and that kind of thing. But anyway, in my dream, I had a wish, and any wish I wanted would come true. So my wish was that I was immortal and that I would live forever. And immediately I was in this desert. And what I was in was I was on planet Earth right around the time that life was sustainable, but yet it was very primitive. So I was like millions of years in the past, and I saw no other living beings really, except for there was in the sand there was a cockroach and there was an electric alarm clock, and it was upside down and it was unplugged, and the time, even though it was unplugged, the time said 11:34. And I realized that I was going to live in insanity without another human being to talk to, without another being for millions of years. Just imagine how old you are now and how many years went by. Now try to fathom 100 years or 1,000 years, let alone millions of years. I was completely screwed. Does anybody know the significance of 1134 upside down? Think of 1134 digitally and turn it upside down. Hell. So I was in hell. That was a pretty profound dream that I had. And I feel like that, yes, Calgal, got it. I feel like that's really interesting. That would be a great Twilight Zone story. And I think I want to eventually put that in. I want to make a short video for YouTube. I've been saying this for a long time. I get so busy with other things. Like before I was doing this, I had to go. I was interrupted. I had to do something. I had to go visit a buddy for his birthday. But before that, I was editing my Scaricon video, which I didn't finish, and I want to put that up. It's 11:30. It's almost 11:34. Isaiah turned a vegan about 3 months ago. Congrats on that. Over some mystical experiences and expanded consciousness. It's out there, you know? These experiences, people have them. They're out there. They're real. So anyway, I hope you liked this scary story. I plan on doing some more of these Halloween things for the rest of the days counting down to Halloween. Maybe I'll do something tomorrow in Salem. Not sure what. And pretty soon we're going to play the game where I come up with a bunch of, I forgot who it was, but somebody here, I credit you guys to that for the idea. We're going to just pick out some quotes for some horror movies, and I'm going to say them and you guys are going to guess the movie. So I think that will be fun too, a little trivia. And I got to stop biting my lips. So my house is a little bit decorated. Yeah, I got a little scarecrow and some pumpkins out front. What else? I guess I'm in it with my vampire teeth. Well, guys, maybe I'm an immortal in another dimension. I do have some more stories that are pretty crazy. I don't even know if I should tell them. You guys probably think that I'm crazy. But yeah, I have some pretty compelling stories, some crazy stories that you guys, yeah, you definitely would think I'm crazy if I told you. But maybe I'll tell you another time. I have to get going now. It's almost on an hour. By the way, Chris, thanks for getting... Are you talking about Thrive Market? Thrive Market. I think that's what you meant. It's a great little... yes, Thrive Market. If anybody else is interested, yeah, it's a great thing to have. I'm about to go do another order myself. I need to order some more... I buy my almond butter from them, so I'm going to get some of that. Lucy says, I turned vegan 5 years ago. I'm from a hunter family in Germany. Got any advice? Sometimes you cannot, I mean, I've been trying ever since. I've been vegan well over 20 years, and I've been trying to, my brothers and sister all followed, and even my mom. But my dad, I've been trying to get him for years and years. Sometimes you just got to do what you can do. And, family will always be family, but sometimes they don't see eye to eye with you. The best thing I can say to you is just go ahead and make delicious foods and let them eat it. Hopefully they will, but my dad never did for all these years. He's finally doing it, and I'm so proud of him. But it took forever. He wouldn't even eat. If he knew something was vegan, he wouldn't eat it. It was so annoying. Bye, Faux Turkey. Corpse Husband. Okay, again, Corpse Husband on YouTube for some more scary stories and stuff like that. Meme shine, you totally hit it. One of the things you said is exactly what I was referring to. I don't want to get into it right now, but yes, you got it. Good night, Calgal. Good night, everybody, actually. Good night, Moon. Good night, Mittens. Good night, Spoon. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Be safe, stay away from zombies, and I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow.